Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the new Football Uncensored podcast with me, Rob Kirton, and of course, John Sitton. John, how's things? We missed a couple of weeks,
A
holidays,
week now.
etc. But
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I mean, like we done what was it, about a fortnight ago today, didn't we? Some really good positive comments. One bell end. Is this a joke? Everything predicted, everything said, everything forecast, everything implied, all come true. So no, it's not a joke. You probably hear it here first. You've been an avid fan for decades. I've been an avid fan for decades, and I've been lucky enough to play and coach and manage. So
yeah,
I doubt,
so far, so
yeah, so far so good. I doubt it's a
right,
joke. But anyway, each to their
right.
own, innit? If anyone want to listen to moribund grey platitudes from people being paid hundreds of thousands or even millions, let them get on with it. But yeah,
Yeah,
there
and
we
we're
are.
certainly not getting paid that, that's for sure. But anyway, let's
That's right. Yeah,
maybe
no.
maybe someone out there will notice this, and they will. But anyway, let's crack on. We're going to start with England, I think. Obviously, had a qualifier and a friendly during our brief sabbatical. Some of the talking points, a couple of controversial squad selections, I think it's fair to say. I can
What were
offer
they? Go on. What were they? Tell me.
my opinion. Calvin Phillips barely laces on the boots for City. Obviously, Maguire was a bit contentious, but
That's interesting. Yeah.
I do understand Southgate's reasons for including Maguire in the squad that we've just had.
Mm.
And then there's obviously the Henderson Saudi thing, the drop off in quality at league that he's playing in. Did he deserve the place in the squad?
Yeah.
Is Southgate loyal to a fault?
Easily addressed. Easily addressed.
Who's right? Who's wrong?
I don't think he is loyal to a fault. I think he's got no choice, and I think he's the perception is he is loyal, but he's loyal because he's got to be loyal because he's got no choice. And you heard it here first, but you heard it here first a long, long time ago. We've got a dearth of talent at centre back. When Stones and Maguire come to the end, we're finished. We're struggling. It's going to come on top. We're going to be probably along the lines of, at the other end, we're going to be sort of along the lines of Everton at international level, because when Harry Kane stops, and I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, I'm going to reiterate, and you heard it here first because no one else has mentioned it on any media platform. With centre back, we're going to be struggling. Centre forward, we're going to be struggling. When Harry Kane packs in, we've got no natural successor. We've got no born goal scorer like he is. We've got no world class finisher like he is. We've got no one with his football intelligence and leadership qualities in that area. And it's the same as centre back. So I don't see Harry had any choice, right? So while I'm on a roll, let me come to it. Calvin Phillips totally vindicated and endorsed his own selection with his display against Scotland, because I thought it was chalk and cheese in terms of every single box you need to tick between the Ukraine performance and the Scotland performance.
Must admit, I've not seen the Scotland game. I saw the Ukraine game, and I know my word to you, not long after it, I think I used mediocre for the
Yeah,
performance level. I've
yeah.
not seen the Scotland game, so
I
I
think
was
some people know, Rob. Yeah, I mean, you've had a break with a family, and I've been working. I've been cracking on at work, so which is why we never had a thing during the aforesaid international break. But if you look at it very briefly, I only saw the highlights when I got home from work of the Scotland game. But I can honestly say, just that little small insight into that performance. All right, man for man, we're better. But man for man, you could say we're better than Ukraine as well. But I just thought that as opposed to Scotland setting up to try and really get a result, and the fact that they were a yard or two off the pace, and the fact that we needed to bounce back from, let's say, a bit of it was almost like an enigmatic performance. It was lacking every single aspect. There was no pace, no energy, no urgency. He come up against the Ukraine side. I looked at it, bump, quick scan, bump, 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 bump. They looked like they played a Christmas tree. And this is when I'm talking when they were really set up, solid, rigid, and conceded the ball And then when they conceded the ball, they only had to come out as the ball was shifted far too slowly for my liking across the England lines. And it was too ponderous and the build-up was too self-indulgent. Because there's only 3 ways you can beat this formation. They lined up. It was like 4-3-2-1. So which is easy enough. You pass around the first one, then the 2 behind, they could come out and ever so slightly threaten, and it made England turn out again. And then if they did manage to wriggle past the 1 and the 2, they come up against the 3. And then the fullbacks or the people on the outside of the 3 only had to come and briefly threaten. They didn't have to come and charge in and put in a tackle or get someone's head down and make them turn out and play back. They just had to slightly threaten. And England turned out and played sideways again. Right, now there's 3 ways you beat that. One was the goal, which was Harry Kane got on the half turn, then he got on the full turn, then he got his head up, and then he had a look, and then he went over the top and in behind for the run by Kyle Walker. Right. Fantastic width, then isolate. So what I'm saying is move the ball quick, boom, 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 out the other side. And then what you've got to do is shift away and isolate, which maybe Saka or Walker 1v1. One with a little bit of pace and a lot of trickery, one with a tremendous amount of pace, so they can get by, round the back and whip a cross in. And the other one is through the 1 and the 2 and the 3, you've got to play through the lines, but down the side of people, little runs into the box, or someone who might have threatened the back, come off at an angle, and then you punch it into feet, and then you've got your third man runs off of it, and maybe a combination play. They're the 3 ways to beat that system, and we didn't. There was no pace, there was no energy. We moved the ball too slowly. There was no urgency. There was didn't look like there was no attention to detail, and I thought the formation and the tactics were wrong. I'll come out and say, and I'll tell you why. All right, I'll justify it. I'll qualify it. You can't honestly, if you go back to the likes of Terry Venables, for my money, the most innovative, inventive, top drawer coach England have had, although results suggest otherwise. Although he's on a par with Bobby Robson in reaching the semi-final, Southgate is on a par reaching the semi-final. And then before that, Ramsey used to say, obviously massive paraphrase, but along the lines of just, I want you to play for me and for England how you play for your club. And he would pick them and he would put them in the same position they play for their club. When I looked at the setup, for the life of me, no way, shape or form could I see how we're going to get the best out of Jude Bellingham. It was like, I'm going by what they said on the telly, 4-3-3. No way can I see us getting the best out of Jude Bellingham wide on the left of a front 3. Then behind him, when they showed the 3 midfielders, again, for the life of me, I can't see how we're going to get the best out of
Maddison.
Who?
Maddison, Spurs.
Maddison. Because if you look at Bellingham, his best performances tend to come from being allowed to go anywhere. Yeah. Right? Because he's got the physique, B, he's got the energy levels and the power and the athleticism, and C, if he gets himself in a tight spot, he's got the technique and trickery to get out of it. And also, if it's in the right areas, it can cause a problem, like he did and do damage, like he did against Scotland. Right? So he starts off in a sort of like if you cut, like I used to cut when I used to coach they talk about coaching in the 3 thirds, where it's like the 3, like defending third, middle third, attacking third. I used to coach, as I've said before in many podcasts, depending on the topic, on the subject matter, on what the session's about, and what it's trying to achieve. Long ways, I would coach long ways. So you'd have 3 thirds long ways. You'd have like maybe a dotted line between the corner of the 2 boxes, which would be your 2, like your right and your left. As I'm looking at you, as I'm looking, your right, and not as people are seeing, but the right outside tranche channel, left outside tranche channel, central tranche. I think Maddison's got to be in that central tranche, and I think to get the best out of him, that's where he does his best work for Spurs. Not wide on the left, and it wasn't wide on the left for Leicester, not wide on the left for Spurs. So why would you play him wide on the left for England, or on the left of a midfield 3? The only way that can work is if, and I didn't see it, is if it's a diamond, the left of a diamond, right? Or the left of were basically a 4-5-1, but the inside one of a 4-5-1. But then he's treading on the other geezer's toes, Bellingham. And you definitely, as you move forward, it showed Kane and it showed to the right Saka, to the left Bellingham. I don't see how we're going to get the best out of him from those positions, from everyone. So I thought that was wrong. And I thought it was a big ask. Okay, fair enough. You can experiment, but you know, if anything, you do it in the centenary game or the 150-year celebration game, I should say, against Scotland, rather than the thing against Ukraine, who I thought were tremendously disciplined, tremendously committed, tremendously determined, and very professional. And that's why you know, I mean, it's for the goal on the break after all, dominating possession. It just goes to show you there's only one stat that counts. And what they were very incisive, very forensic, and Declan Rice was on island into nothing. And that brings me to the next thing. While I think of it, because I've been turning the stuff over me, and you just think to yourself, well, we only got a brief time to get this information out when we do talk. I just think that I questioned it in the first place. Then he had a fantastic renaissance. Then he captained a league winning side, a Champions League winning side, as in Jordan Henderson. I just can't help thinking now he's coming at the end of his string. He's coming to his sell-by date. I just think, like, when you look at there was little tentative play round the corner or touch inside by Saka, or I'm pretty sure it was him. It might have been him. Anyway, then he got bundled off the ball or dispossessed or outmuscled Henderson. Then I'm looking at his energy levels and his recovery run, and it's just everything's lumped on. The other one's got caught too far forward, right? Because he's thinking he's going to turn it out of his feet. I want to be in this position to come and get it, as in Maddison. So you look at Maddison's recovery run, you look at Henderson's recovery run, and you've got poor Declan Rice. He didn't know whether to stay with his own man, go to the furthest man, or look over his shoulder for the other man. Henderson's man, his man, and Maddison's man. So he was caught between the three stalls. And then by the time he's gone over, he's tried to be clever and cute and play a bit of time and delay. And with the left back, try and delay that. It was like a split second 3v2 in their favour. And as he's got over, they've gone like bump wide, bump inside, bump in the back of the net. And I can't help thinking that thank you very much for your service and the way you've represented the country, the way you conducted yourself and carried yourself. I think that's it now. And if you want proof for the pudding in the eating, you look at the Scotland game with the difference in the energy levels between the likes of him and then comparing it to Calvin Phillips. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. I think, like you said, there's the Ukraine game. There's certainly some square pegs in round holes. There seem to be, and Maddison and Bellingham being the obvious two. I don't know what Bellingham managed this weekend, but I think leading into the international break, I think he'd scored in every game for Real Madrid, which is about, I think, 4 games, his first 4 games. Yeah. Scored in every game, playing in an advanced central midfield role.
Yeah. That's going to be his best position. He's going to be, I think he should be the fulcrum of the side. People probably think you're talking off your nut and it's too early. I promise you this, on my grandson, I sent Adrian Durham a message. Because we message each other on WhatsApp occasionally. It's normally one way from me to him, but occasionally he gets back to me. And I said, during the course of the last championships, I said, mate, don't muck about. Make him captain now. Make him captain now. It's the full package, the real deal, everything. I think he's got everything that Gascoigne had. He's got everything that Robson had.
Well, that's quite a combo. If you combine Gazza and Robson.
Yeah, well, you think of the tricks. You think of the tricks Gascoigne come up with. You know, with a little Cruyff turns and rolling over his foot and using the sole of his foot to get out of a tight situation. He does all that, and he does it at more pace. And then you look at the power and his ability to cover acres and acres of ground. And putting his foot in that and arriving in the box, that reminds you a bit of Robson. And I happen to think there's more goals in him. So, and he's got probably the shooting power of Bobby Charlton. And I think he should be encouraged to shoot more. But what I said is, sticking to the point, I said to Durham, hey, if it was me, I'd make him captain now. I wouldn't muck about. But mate, you know, everyone manages different. Maybe it's what got me in trouble, being a bit too brash. but you got to have the courage of your convictions. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
the thing is, even if you take it slowly, you find yourself having to try and explain the courage of your convictions and your decisions. Like the Southgate come out all guns blazing, didn't he, after the Scotland game? I mean, have it right. Player for player, we're a much better side than them.
yeah,
I think we
of
would be
course.
expected to beat them. I just think, well, you know what? They've had a win. There was a few criticisms of the rightfully so, in my opinion, of the Ukraine performance, and he's come out and he's started going on about the why people are having a pop at certain players. It comes with the territory, It's unrealistic at the end of the day a lot of the time, but I just think high expectations, born of high expectations. Although a lot of over the decades they've been unrealistic.
Yeah.
But credit to him for defending his players and coming out, and he's sort of gone, have some of that. Have
Well,
some
that's
of
the
that.
main. Yeah, that's the main slight, or one of the main slights against Southgate, isn't it? By the sometimes the pundits, but mainly the armchair fans, such as myself, possibly, that
Hmm.
he doesn't always embrace the courage of his convictions, as you put it. And a popular belief is it's cost us in the. Apologies if I get in the wrong way around. The Italy game, which I believe
Yeah, the Euros. Look, they
was
ended
the
up a penalty
Euros,
shootout. Yep.
and
Um,
Croatia was the last World Cup, wasn't it?
yeah, and they got them both wrong. He
Mm.
got them both wrong. Sure, when it went 1-0, should have gone for the jugular. But that's just my opinion. But then he's got to manage what's there, and all the players are coming from different backgrounds, different stuff at different clubs. And me personally, even at club level, I think players should be. Should be. You never know; they might well be in the future more tactically adaptable, and you should be able to change formations at the flick of a switch on one based on a quick instruction, and then back again, and then back again. It's something different. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
like you keep the Italians guessing, you keep them on the back foot. And then not only that, you got the substitutions wrong. You're talking about cold feet coming into a game to take penalties, really, realistically.
Well, yeah,
And then at least one of them's got an attitude problem. You know what I mean? So I thought that was a big, massive gamble. Then before that, I thought he was out of his depth. I thought his assistant was out of his depth. I could see from outer space what needed to be done against Croatia in the World Cup semi-final. And then I got people to talk to, like Alan Hudson. He said, "So you don't think it was down to Modric then?" I said, "No, I don't. It might have been partly down to him, and he's a massive asset, but you know what I mean? It's the thing where what's the old saying? The sum total of the
I
of the
always
part,
get this wrong.
yeah, of the
The,
parts far exceed the sum total of the individual. And I just think we should have changed the formation. We should have gambled ever so slightly. I'm talking. We had 5 at the back marking 1, so they basically had 6v3 in the middle of the park and 3v1 at the back versus Harry Kane. I thought someone should have been brought on to help Harry Kane. I thought we should have changed the formation and pushed them back. I thought we should have gone man for man in midfield. I thought Kyle Walker should have been pushed forward, and we should have left gambled leaving 2 centre halves to mark 1 centre forward, which ain't that much of a gamble, not at that level anyway.
you said early doors at both ends of the pitch, not the keeper, but the centre backs and the centre forward.
Yeah,
When I question the inclusion of Maguire. Listen, I understand why Southgate included him because of no Stones for a start, and you cited Stones as really the only other realistic option at this
that's right.
stage.
Yeah, because
So
he
when
never
they,
bloodied. He should have bloodied Tamori,
yeah, so
who's
when,
probably a fantastic man marker.
mm,
And probably a better athlete, and might not be as thing. He might have matured in terms of his composure on the ball, having gone over there. Then you look at who else is there.
yeah,
He took
so
a chance. He took a chance with another youngster, didn't he?
yeah, so as you say, who can he pick? Limited choice at centre back,
Yeah,
very limited choice at centre forward.
yeah,
Unlike previous generations, such as Venables had to pick from, they could reel off easily half a dozen strikers.
yeah,
But you
easily.
have also highlighted some strength in the midfield, but obviously the square pegs round holes tactical approach in the Ukraine game. So
Yeah.
how? I mean, Bellingham. Obviously, what you said about Bellingham, he has to play. So who do you play around Bellingham for the England
Well,
midfield?
if you look at the thing, against Scotland, I mean, you're talking about inferior players, and I mean that with the utmost respect. It's, would have been me playing in a cup tie like I did against Spurs or Arsenal or Everton. You know what I mean? We were a third division club, so most of the time the outcomes it's got an air of inevitability about it. Although I never approached it that way. I thought Rashford was devastating against Scotland. So, and then I did ask very briefly, where's Jack? I don't know, is he injured? Grealish? What's he
I
suspended?
believe
They left
he's
him out. What's going on?
believe he's carrying a knock. He didn't play for City at the
Oh, well, that's
weekend
fair
again.
enough.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, well, that's fair enough. I'm talking the 2 week international break. So that's a long old break because this is that's a full 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So um, you're only looking at 3 weeks for a major hamstring tear. Quite a major hamstring tear. So but maybe the summer's caught up with him. You're talking about successive summers. You're talking about going right to the end with regards to club competition. So quite a few of them are going to be cream crackered. You know what I mean?
mm,
But if you look at the thing, the contrast between the Scotland and the Ukraine game, I thought Rashford was absolutely devastating on our left. So I think that comfortably answers that one. Bellingham, I'll say he's got to play in that. Now, if he makes a run inside to out to get involved in combination play or to get round someone to get a ball, or if someone's punching into the front man, he makes a third man run round someone to get it off the front man via a third man run. That's fair enough. But I honestly think he should remain, and I'm convinced he'll do the most damage in that central tranche, that long ways. Yeah.
I
I've always said
presume.
with the players we got, even going back to the World Cup, the Russia World Cup, I thought our best chance, and I thought our best chance in the Euros was 5-diamond-1. Which it's been very en vogue with clubs, but they start differently, but it evolves into a 3-4-3. But if you do 5-diamond-1, it can be anything. It can be 2-3-5. You know what I mean? It can be 3-5-2. It can be 5-5-2-3. It can be 5-3-2. It can be 4-1-4-1. It can be 4-3-3. It depending on where the ball is, who's got the ball, whether we're in possession, out of possession. I just think with the players we've had and the areas that they play, I happen to think for quite a while now, at least since the Russia World Cup or the approach to the Russia World Cup, I think that's been our best formation. But who would know how to coach it? I don't know.
Well, maybe you could have a crack, John. You're a known advocate of that
And them,
formation.
I think them days is long gone, mate. Yeah, them days are
Yeah.
long gone. And what it is as well, you need, like I say, you need to be able to adapt to switch to right. What we're going to do, it's like, so when we equalised against Ukraine, so we started off with a lot of the ball, and then they just opened us up like hot knife through butter, and then we got the goal back. And I just think, well, maybe now what you need to do is while we've got the goal and everyone's adrenaline's up and the tempo's up, and we've got that feel good factor from the equal, that maybe that's the time to change the formation and maybe put the Ukrainians on the back foot. People are coming out with claptrap about political this and political. It's nothing to do with that. I just think it's to do with the way they set up, and we couldn't break it down. And
Mm.
like I say, I thought the Scotland game was chalk and cheese.
Yeah, I'll have to watch. I'll have to watch that Scotland game. You say about that you relate to the fluidity of the potential fluidity of the formation,
Yeah,
the 5-diamond-4. It struck me a little bit in the Ukraine game. Obviously, as we've said, he seemed to start on the wrong foot with Bellingham out on the left and Madison sort of tucked in the
yeah.
wrong position. But then instead of changing the formation and the tactic with the players he had on the pitch, Southgate to me always seems to be, and generally it seems to be a defensive change rather than an attacking change. He always seems to make his subs and change it that way. So perhaps disrupting the flow of the game and then trying to change it. And
Maybe
I
you
could
don't
be
know, mate.
misinterpreting you here, but you're sort of getting at
Yeah,
changing formation within the players you've got on the pitch and a sort of a more fluid approach, or am I misinterpreting you?
yeah. No, it could have been forgiven in the past for doing it to have a look at someone. But I honestly think now the squad is pretty much been settled for a while, although the formation isn't. I think a lot of people would agree on that. They go on about identity, and you understand what I mean. But I don't think he's quite sure, depending on the opposition, whether he can trust a flat back four, which inevitably is never a flat back four as it used to be. So he might go in certain games with a 5. He'll go in other games with a 4. Then you've got the same problem midfield. I think he's trying to shoehorn people in. Instead of saying, there's the shirt, fight for it. And whoever's on blob, in your opinion, whoever's, at the absolute top of their game is doing, then it's up to them to hold on to it. Unless you want to change it tactically, you know what I mean? I think you should have a contrast as well. And I just think, like, in terms of midfield, I think we're blessed with it's excess of riches.
Options,
yeah.
There's definitely a lot of options
But
in midfield.
not up front. That's a problem. That's a problem coming down the road. So as a coach or a manager, you've got to think of the here and now, but you've also got to have one eye on next week, and then think about the consequences of what might happen if this happens, and then the next month, and what happens if that happens, and then have I got a contingency for this? Not that they get the time, but at that level, England level, and I think he'll time his exit accordingly. Seriously, that's another first. What happens in football? Some people are cute enough and clever enough to time their exit accordingly. And when you see that we're struggling to field a back, like a decent back four with established proper centre backs, and Harry Kane's coming to his sell by date, then there won't be a lot left for anyone to pick up the thread.
No, a bit like, I mean, digress ever so slightly, but a bit like when Ferguson bailed out at Man United. I think possibly you could see. I think City had just come into their money. Obviously, Chelsea were still on a roll with Abramovich here and winning plenty of trophies. You could see City coming into the money.
Yeah, well, look what's happened there at Chelsea. My first club, one of my old clubs. Look what's happened there since Roman's left, and and then probably even worse than that is someone like Everton.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, they had people like Silva. Depending on what media outlet you listen to or read, Silva was treated very badly there. Ancelotti's read the script. He's too cute, too cool for that school. And he's gone like, don't like the look of this, I'm off ski. And he bowed, you know what I mean? And now you're looking someone sort of tarred as an old school English manager. I don't know what that means. I think he's unbelievably eloquent, media bright, media savvy, speaks well in terms of, like, in football, in terms coaching wise. It's in the hands of Sean Dyche to try and get blood out of a stone. I don't know. Is this a joke? I said it ages ago on this podcast, on other podcasts, about Everton going to struggle, and they're going to continue to struggle until something gets sorted out. Until someone can get hold of the club by the scruff of the neck. They're still, and it's going to keep struggling until they clearly define what direction they want to go in, even with the new stadium. And I said this last week on Twitter, this could be the new Coventry. They're talking about naming rights and so who's going to run the stadium, and is it going to be leased to the club, and blah, 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 blah. So all these have a direct consequence. And I'm telling you from first-hand experience, because I inherited a situation it was like Jerry Cottle's circus, you know what I mean, at Leyton Orient, and club hemorrhaging money and blah, 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 not enough players, no goals in the team, or not enough goals in the team from different areas, had to rely on one person. Everton can't even do that. All this has a knock-on effect, and it has a detrimental effect to everyone's mentality in the club. That's what's going on there. So he's got a major struggle on his hands.
Yeah, we will move on a bit of the Prem in a little bit. Going back to Southgate, though, while you were talking, I was trying to remember the last England manager that resigned on his own terms. I know, and I'm sure I'm missing someone, but in recent history, I'm struggling to think of an England manager who left on their own terms and wasn't sacked or or
But no one
or
has
can it
really. I
help?
mean, he got sort of basically, it was one of them. I don't know what I'm doing here. Well, what you're doing is because you just got beat by the international equivalent of Wimbledon. They played 4-3-3, retreating into 4-5-1. Iceland. That's why Hodgson was brought in front of the cameras. He left
Mm.
on not particularly great terms. Before that, Oddle, because of his talking outside of his remit, which when you've got a personality, that tends to happen. I've been guilty of that. If you've got a bit of charisma and a bit of personality and an opinion on stuff. So he got held over the coals for talking about some strange belief in like what happens if you're reincarnated and you've sinned in a previous life. Venables supposedly off the field goings on, but then I don't know why they would give it to Ericsson when he had far more off the field goings on. So, it just goes to show. It just goes to
Yeah.
show. Well, we'll see. I mean, he'll time it accordingly, though. I should imagine the next championship would be his last one, because after that, we're running out of time. I mean,
Well,
people
yeah.
going on about a so-called new generation. You can't base that on one or two players. You can't base that on Jack Grealish and Jude Bellingham and maybe Saka. You can't base that on 2 or 3 players and a couple of semi-decent goalkeepers. No way can you do that. Cole Walker, he's over 30 now. I think he's 30. He might be 29. What's his
No,
name?
he's that. I read this. I read just this evening. He's 33. Kyle Walker.
Right. But the United centre back, what's he now? 29, 30 Stones. I don't know. What's he? 27, 28.
He
So
must be late 20s. John
yeah.
Stones, I would
Oh,
say.
that's it now. They're peaked, or they're on their peak. They're on that thing. Anyway, as I used to phrase it, any time after that, now it's you've got to get them while they're like between half 11, 20, half 11. You're teaching them the game 20 to 12, up to 5 to 12 at club level. You're cashing in on performances. Then at 5 to 12, you cash in financially. Then at 12, you might get away with it and pull a stroke and pull the wool over someone's eyes and do someone like a Kipper, because I happen to believe now that 40 million don't buy a lot. It actually buys probably, in my opinion, the worst midfield player in the league, in the Premier League, and then 100 million don't buy much better. When you look at it in terms of assets, I'm talking at Everton, who they got in midfield. How they got 40 million off the Arsenal for the get our Arsenal got 40 million for the geezer. I don't know, because he just runs up and down. That's it. You can get any super fit. Sorry to use the word Uber scum.
What are you
Yeah,
thinking?
you can get any super fit championship player to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at now thinking, well, so now what you've got to do is in terms of club level, that's when you've got to cash in. 5 past 12, 10 past 12, it's too late. They're past their best. They're past their sell-by date. You're not going to teach them anything. And you've done your chance of getting any dough. Well, it's the same at international level, except for the transfer part.
I mean, again, I'm thinking while you're talking, other end of the pitch, Kane. Obviously, no one's really had a look in for the last, what are we talking, 6, 7 years, 8 years, maybe,
No, well,
when
yeah, it's because
he's
there
been
ain't
our centre
anyone.
forward.
Rob, there ain't
Because
anyone. There ain't anyone.
no,
There ain't anyone.
yeah,
Even someone like him, Lewin, they brought him back out of desperation yesterday. He's playing with a face mask on. I'm afraid, I mean, to see the state of it, the photo when it was first done, the cheekbone thing. And that's almost an act of desperation to have a focal point. But you could see he was, as bodies, people were thinking,
mm,
rightly so. You don't want to get it smashed again. You know what I mean? But he's not. The point being, he's not a prolific goal scorer. You know what I mean? He's
no,
nowhere near it. I think I don't even know if it's 1 in 3. It might be 1 in 4. I'll be honest. I've got nothing in front of me, and we're doing it as a matter of opinion. Talking maybe as if we was having, half a lager or a glass of wine, or just 2 mates talking after the playing ourselves. Maybe on a Sunday morning, but all the stats and all the thing and the paraphernalia and all the other professional stuff and microphones, that's for other people who get paid. This is just it's just all this is off the top of my head. You know what I mean? I just think
yeah.
after that, who are you going to think, unless you start playing false nines? But I don't think we're educated for that.
No, I agree. I mean, the other again, I think you got Wilson. Obviously, he gets in the squad, but I think he's older than Harry Kane, and he's gonna be gone before, or or at the same time as Kane. So there's he's the most obvious candidate I can think of. If Kane, God forbid, gets injured and has to miss a few games,
Yeah,
then I think probably Callum Wilson comes in as a centre forward. And if he's unavailable, because let's face it, he's
they've tried
got a bit
Rashford
of
there. I did say,
a
along with a lot of other people, watch this space, watch this kid. He looks like he's got the lot. Always hits the target, always shoots low, always looks for the corners, always punches it or passes it in the corners. Always, if not inevitably, forces a save out of the keeper. Great technique. That was Mason Greenwood. He blew it. He blew it.
just a bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
just a bit,
Yeah.
just a bit. It's a shame. Well, slight little bit of a controversial one, and I don't know how many times he's played. Obviously, there's been a little bit of a thing between England and Ireland over the years of England pinching people from Ireland to play internationally. Declan Rice being the prime example. The young lad at Brighton, centre forward, Ferguson, I think it is. I think he's
Mm.
18, 19.
Mm.
He looks quite tasty. Whether or not the FA have got the ability and all the minerals to try and convince him to play for England,
No,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think that.
I
I
don't know
don't
how
think.
many. I don't know how many caps he's had.
Yeah, no, I don't think that'll happen. Not
No,
not going by his disposition
no,
and his accent. I don't think that'll happen. He's more.
no, possibly.
He's more. Rice is more of a Cockney, wasn't he? He was more of a
Yeah,
like. You know what I mean?
no, possibly not with Ferguson. I think that's very wishful thinking on my part because the lad looks a bloody good centre forward, and you said there shoots. You know, in terms of the shooting, shoots low, shoots for the corner. You can see it's not a. You know, he's not lashing it at the goal. He looks very good. But we shall see. I don't know when next international breaks in a couple of weeks. Well, probably about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Normally another one. We'll see who makes the squad. The Henderson thing that you said what could be interesting. Whether
I
he's in
think.
again.
Listen, you've got all these factors, right? As he's got older, most importantly, I think he's going to be off the pace. He's going to, I think, it reminds me very, very much years ago, my era. People used to be coming to the end of their sell by date, the end of their shelf life, I should say. The sell by date was coming up. The contract weren't going to be renewed, or they had a year, and they're going to play for the summer there, or they go there permanently. The old North American Soccer League, one last big payday, much more easygoing lifestyle. Training less intense, pitches, they've gone from crap pitches, heavy mud, to AstroTurf, whatever, and they might do what they're doing now, the equivalent of a third or half a season. They do an hour and they get substituted. Do you know what I mean? So you might do 2/3 of a season out there, as in like 2/3 of 90 minutes. You do your hour, that's it, job done. They hit the beach and the bar. You know what I mean? I ain't saying Henderson will do that. Plus, he's in that type of culture where it ain't the case, but that edge, that fine line between the intensity of competing for Liverpool at European and Premier League level, and then going to, like maybe a safe little thing. And I just think he's going to be off the pace, and I think it showed against Ukraine. And it'd be too easy to jump on it then, but I had said it for a while. And you just think you've got to turn over just as quickly at international level from championship to championship. I believe if you're educating the players right, you've got 2-year gaps between the championships. And what you've got to do is you go, right, well, is he still got that edge? Has he still got that yard of pace? Has he still got all the thing about him that I want in terms of tactical adaptability and all his list of whatever his other assets were or are? And if the answer is no, you've got to look to pastures no. And I just think it's time for to bring in new blood.